Good morning. My name is Barbara Fuller, and as Chair of the Board, I welcome you to this January 21st, 2025 working session of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners. I want to apologize for the delay. We had some technical issues we needed to sort out this morning, and we're all back on track now. Our office coordinator, Aaron Smith, will describe how our meetings operate, how to access the agenda packet, and how people may participate remotely. Aaron.
Thanks, Chair Fuller. There are multiple ways to make public comment during today's working session, whether you're joining us in person or virtually. If you're here in person and would like to make comment, please fill out the sign-in sheet now. If you're joining us virtually, we will ask you to raise your hand at the appropriate time in the agenda. If you're joining us virtually and are experiencing technical issues with audio or video during the meeting, submit a comment in the chat feature and our communications manager will help you troubleshoot. If you would like closed captioning during the meeting, you'll have to manually change your settings. Click on the captions button and select show captions. The audio and video of this meeting is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be posted to our website in the next few days. And there are printed copies of today's meeting agenda on the table near the front door, and it is also posted on our website. And now I'll turn it back over to Chair Fuller.
Thank you, Aaron. I now call this January 21st, 2025 working session to order and ask Aaron to call the roll.
Chair Barb Fuller.
Present.
Vice Chair Rod Green.
Present.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas will be joining us in soon. Commissioner Joanne McCullum.
Present.
Commissioner Jeff Smurs.
Present.
And then the following directors are in attendance: Managing Director Matt Washtenaw, Director of Engineering and County Highway Engineer Brent Schlack, Director of Operations Adam Leip, and Director of Finance Dan Ackerman.
Thank you, Aaron. At this point in time, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So move.
Second.
Any additions, deletions, corrections? Seeing none, Aaron, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Present.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Smurs.
Yes.
And Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, the agenda is approved as presented. Next on our agenda is public comment. This is the time set aside on the agenda to receive comments from the public. This is not intended to be a period for dialogue. Each person will be allotted 3 minutes to address the board, and Aaron will explain how people may be recognized to offer comments.
Thanks, Chair Fuller. Since this is a hybrid meeting with both in-person and virtual attendees, we will take turns between those attending in person and virtually. For our virtual attendees, we have provided some instructions on the screen on how to participate and make comment. If you're attending this meeting virtually and would like to make comment, please raise your hand now. If you dialed into the meeting from your phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. Our communications manager will unmute virtual participants with raised hands one at a time and will announce your username or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to speak. Please share your name and address before beginning your comments. And then for our in-person attendees, we will start with those who signed up on the sign-in sheet as you walked in. If you didn't sign in, you're still welcome to make comment. Our communications manager will notify you when it is your turn.
Thank you. Do we have anyone signed in or waiting virtually to comment?
At this time, no, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will move on. Our agenda is a beefy one today. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our Managing Director, Matt Washtenaw, to proceed. Matt.
Morning, Board, and thank you, Chair. On the agenda today, we have the WCRC Academy, and Nicole's going to kind of walk us through it. This should be somewhat familiar to you. This is the same platform that we did the cybersecurity training, but we wanted to provide you an update on how it's going with implementation. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you. Nicole Peterson, HR Manager. So what we titled WCRC Academy, it's actually a learning platform or a learning management system that is called Absorb. So if you have completed your cybersecurity training, you have had experience on logging in and conducting training through this platform. It is a cloud-based, so accessible anywhere for our employees that are staff that are going to be using this. Online, we have found it to be very user-friendly. We can personalize it per department or individuals, and have found it to be a real motivator for those that are able to do online training at their desk or have a small group together. what we did prior to launch, once we had to determine that Absorb was the right choice for us for this learning management system, we had put together like a focus group of individuals that we thought would either be high users or a couple people even that may not be super tech savvy, just to see that it was going to be easy for all ends of the spectrum in our workforce on how comfortable they are with a computer. After we went through that, that's when we did our official launch and made it live for everyone. Like you saw with the cybersecurity, we did make some trainings required. We can do that and set a deadline for employees to complete. And then there's a lot of optional opportunities for people. Great for days like today where it may not be the best day for crews to be out in the cold, and we can have a foreman schedule and a meeting room, gather their crew in there, and we can work through a training program together. So WCRC Academy is available through just a desktop icon. All the yards have kiosks available for their use, so they also can access this just through the icon at their yard. Or like I said, they can work with their foreman on a laptop. We have loaner laptops, or we can get into a conference room. So when they first log in, you have the welcome page. It's personalized for each individual because you have your own login. So it would have my name come across and I'll be able to go in and see my competencies, what I have taken, what's been assigned to me. As an administrator, there's only a few of us that are actually able to assign the training to individuals on the back end. So some of the things we've been using the WCRC Academy for would include the employee onboarding. There's a lot of safety that's there. We can do required trainings like sexual harassment prevention. This is great for employee upskilling, and then also the compliance training. When an employee's on, and there you can see at the bottom in the photo how it says, "Welcome Nicole Peterson." There's a catalog and there's 3 categories. So you can either go after the human resources, safety, or technology. We've vetted these courses already that are available to employees and been able to build the catalog ourselves. Each individual, you can see you have personalized data. So it lists the courses that I have completed, any certificates that I've received. It'll give you updates when a certificate's going to be expiring, if you want to keep up to date on that. And we're able to connect also like outside resources to this database. So this is going to be our primary catalog for all the training completed for employees, because we're able to go in and enter that for them as well. Probably the most fun thing people are finding is there's a leaderboard to see, you get points based on the training that you've completed. Some have exams, some don't. So some are interactive, or you can sit back and just listen, maybe, in the background just to refresh yourself on something. But it's become quite a competition, and you can see by the leaderboard, and who some of the leaders are. So I was gonna have Ken come up and kind of share his experience with Absorb, because he would be one of our heaviest users, and he's been one of the biggest promoters of this program for his staff and others. So will you share some things, Ken?
I'm Ken Harris, Superintendent of Operations. So when we first got this, I was part of the group that trialed it, and it was good. I was able to take it home and try it at home just on my cell phone, see how it worked. And I don't think the girlfriend appreciated that too much, but it was nice to be able to try just to see if it was able to be done at home. There's certain programs, certain trainings that worked well at home on a cell phone that didn't. So I was able to work with Chris on a few of those items. We've moved forward with doing a lot of group trainings with the guys, and that's something great. Our heavy equipment crew met. They took over conference room 200 and did about a half a dozen trainings. So it was great to do them as a group. And we got a upcoming chainsaw class coming up, and I was able to assign all those attendees chainsaw course in here. So kind of treating it as like your prerequisites. You got to think of like a college-based course. You're gonna have always prerequisites to some of your training. So doing that moving forward. Also, when we start doing internal interviews for positions such as a foreman or group leader, anything like that, if people do not get the position, or even they do get the position, we'll be able to provide them with some additional trainings on areas that they may have been lacking in or areas that they need to improve on. So this is a great area to use that. I've noticed it. There's a Microsoft-based software called Planner that I was looking a little further into. I was able to get with Chris, and Absorb has thousands of trainings that are not in the program right now. So I was able to get with him, and found a 40-minute long planner course. He was able to upload it real quick and be able to take a look at that. So it was good to just get an understanding if it was worthwhile to train that. And he's got a lot of courses on Excel, PowerPoint. So if I've got a presentation upcoming, I can look into just freshen up on some PowerPoint skills, some presentation skills. I mean, even there's some resume building, and just even if you're doing an internal interview for a different position, it's nice to have some of those confidence builders and learning some of those courses. So a lot of stuff that are in there. Needless to say, I'm pretty well capped out on some of them, but some of them are some long ones. There's a few hour courses that you just kind of tone your skills, and there's different modules set up in there. So if you're in Excel and you just want to know how about pivot tables, you can take a 30-minute course, or you can take one of the mastering Excels and learn a little bit about a little tab on their modules. So any questions about the Absorb software?
Commissioner Green.
Yes, thank you. Is the programs, I'm sorry, are the programs entirely online?
Yes.
Okay, and if someone has difficulty with, on a computer, might I say, the ability to use the computer or use those programs like Excel, et cetera, is there an opportunity for them to learn how to use the programs? How does that work?
Yeah, so all of our kiosks all have a link on there for everybody can go on our kiosk stations out in the lunch rooms, and they can all access those Absorb trainings on there. The difficult part is some of the Excel trainings. If you don't use Excel all the time, it can be very overwhelming to take an Excel course. But some of the introductory courses in there, it's very basics, which will walk through. Even now that everybody's got their emails here, there's an email course. There's nine different courses for email. Some of them are 1 minute all the way up to 4-minute long courses, but all goes into depth about how to do the header of your email and how to do talks about the basis of your email. So it goes into small little increments about your email courses. But do they have availability to access Excel? Is that what you're asking?
I guess, I was asking, is there any training on the computer itself,
Mhm.
like on Excel or?
Now, outside of this, I mean, if the employee wants to take further training courses, Chris and IT has been more than willing to help us out with any additional resources. And that's how we had to handle it in the past. If we wanted to learn about Excel, we had to go external to a third party. We want to Washtenaw Community College before, or we've done some YouTube videos and stuff. And now it's better to streamline it all through this Absorb, which has given us a lot more capabilities of training on Excel.
Okay, thank you.
The same thing goes for Microsoft Word, PowerPoint,
Right.
even Outlook. There's a mastering Outlook on there. So even for myself, who's seem pretty efficient in Microsoft Outlook, I'm in there every single day. I learned a lot just from the basic beginner course. It was a couple hours long, but it walked you through all the little basics that I didn't know email could read to you, and small basic stuff that you learn just by doing that. So,
That's what I meant. Thank you.
yeah.
Commissioner McCollum.
Madam Chair. Is this personalized per department or per person?
I think I can keep talking. I don't mind at all.
Thanks.
I know in operations side, I can assign it to the foreman. So if when we did the chainsaw training, I was able to assign it to individuals.
Okay.
But also if we have a yard that, we got forklift training upcoming, so Craig was able to update our safety coordinator, put some safety trainings in there for forklift. Then if the crew is doing it, they can do it as a crew, as a group, or as an individual. So that's like their prerequisite. Then we have you're able to put resources on there as well. So if there's a test you have to do in the field, you can have the sign-in sheet all attached to those courses as resources, so.
Commissioner Smers.
Is there, or you mentioned chainsaw training and then the forklift training, is there like a performance evaluation form afterwards? Something you guys observe, someone operating that?
Yeah, so especially with the forklift, you have a classroom side, of course, that we have to do, and that's what the Absorb checks off, which Absorb will pull in a safety source video. So safety source is an external website that we're able to record and put it on there. So we're able to utilize it, even if we can pull a link from a different website. But then we have also a course that we have to do on the field. But it will provide those, and the resources tab will have the sign-in sheet for all that work. Thank you. And we print that off and just scan it over to. Yep.
All set?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Green?
thank you. So if someone successfully completes a course, and they want to apply for a promotion, are they given extra consideration because they went through the academy, or how does that work?
Well, that would be, I would say, a part of the overall picture of their resume if they've successfully done, maybe that increases that they could say they're a beginner, intermediate in Microsoft Word versus having no experience. That could be helpful depending on what position they apply for. Absolutely. I think that is a part of what WCRC Academy is just building up the skills for our employees in all different areas, not just for the required, but just another tool for them to use to build themselves professionally.
Commissioner Yamas?
So, if somebody goes through and does all the courses, and if they want a more in-depth course that might be in there, they get permission from the supervisor and then you assign it?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Great.
I'll just add that the courses are generally available, and if there are people seeking other areas of professional development, there are a lot there. Under human resources, there's a lot of things for supervisors, conflict resolution. There's a wealth of training courses that you can take. And if the individual is looking for something, they have to work with their supervisor, obviously, so they can allot time, but they also can, as Ken indicated, it is open to anyone after work hours. So if it's something that they want to take on their own and do, that's totally up to them. So to answer your question on, yes, each person can personalize it themselves, but then as an organization, we're also going to assign required training.
I have one question. Are all courses open to all employees?
No. It would be, there's like the general library and
Mhm.
like, to go off of Gloria's question, if there was something above and beyond that we wanted to assign and search for, we would be able to find that and assign it to the individual. Plus, there's a lot of courses that are maybe in other languages or things that aren't applicable
Mhm.
to our workforce. So those we just took out so that it wasn't so overwhelming.
Okay.
And also any of the in-person training sessions that we host here, we'll keep track of it. And I know, Nicole, you touched on that, but we're gonna have, this is basically a database of all the training that you participate in. So whether it's through Absorb or if it's in person, then we'll scan sign-in sheets and enter the course, so that we're tracking it. So it's a good thing.
Very exciting. Commissioner McCollum?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a comment. I like the name of this. I like the WCRC Academy because it doesn't sound like, like you're pressured to do things and whatever. It just sounds like a user-friendly name, the title of this. So I like that.
That was a collaborative effort.
Okay.
So it was
We
the group that,
brainstormed,
yeah, we talked to a lot of different angles, but came up, settled in on that. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I'm impressed. Usually by committee, it ends up being 12 words long. This is nicely concise. Other questions? Commissioner Green?
I have one other question. Right now, the academy is limited to employees of the Washtenaw County Road Commission, correct?
Yes.
Could you envision a time where it might be open to someone who may not be an employee, but might want to gain those skills to become an employee?
No, it has to be, because we would have to set an individual up with like their WCRC email and access, and I would be
Oh, I see.
concerned that there could be either licensing or security issues.
Yeah, that's one of the requirements was that each individual had to have a road commission email to log into the system. So that's one of the reasons amongst many where we issued an email to all of our employees now, which is a great thing. We've found a lot of other things have been made easier because of that.
Yes.
We've come a long way,
Oh,
haven't we
the
not?
email's huge. The communication and the instant responses we're able to give to employees and them being able to reach out, at least just for requests or questions to HR directly, has been just so helpful. So it
Game
just makes
changer.
me feel much more customer service
Mhm.
accessible and friendly.
I do have one.
All right. Commissioner Yamas.
Does every employee have a phone, a WCRC phone? No.
They do.
No.
Okay, so it comes off of their own personal
Mhm.
equipment. Okay.
Yeah, each of the yards, if you don't have a computer or phone assigned to you, you do have access to a computer, as Ken described, in all of our break rooms. So all of our break rooms have computers. We refer to them as kiosk, because that's how we enter our time, materials and whatnot. But the kiosk is also available. You can log into your email. Employees can, if they choose, download an app and put it on their personal phone. They can access our Outlook through their username and password. So they can put that on their phone if they'd like. If not, they can use the computers in the break room that we provide
At each yard,
at
right?
each yard.
All right.
I'll just stay standing for the next topic.
All right, I think we're done with the academy.
Okay.
There are no
Okay.
further
Thank you very
questions.
much.
Need to take a break? Are you good?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you doing the next presentation too?
Well, we're
We
just
have
gonna
another
talk about-
document about the next
Yeah.
Revised.
agenda item.
Okay. Sorry to move forward with next agenda item?
Please.
All right, very good. So before you today, we all have a copy of the annual leave policy in draft form. It's a revision. And Tiffany, if you wouldn't mind sharing it, put it on the screen as well. The annual leave policy, we've got some changes that we'd like to make. We're consolidating a couple of policies. And one of the reasons also we're having legal review on this because of the Employee Sick Time Act. It's a law in Michigan, and so we're making sure that our annual leave, which is encompassing of all kind of personal leave, vacation, sick time, our organization has always had, not always, but it's been a long time, have had annual leave since I started back in 2006. So prior,
For non-union.
for non-union.
Bill and Nicole Peterson, HR manager. Just to go a little bit further back, Matt.
Please.
So what we have before you is the annual leave policy for non-union employees. As it currently stands right now, the title of that would be for all employees. We're looking to make this change for non-union only at this time. That was based on the recommendation of our legal counsel, because we do have upcoming contract negotiations. And what we historically like to do here is pattern bargain. So having this in place would assist us when we're going to go to the table with TPOAM. Also, like Matt said, making sure that we are in compliance with ESTA, which does become effective next month. So hope maybe, it keeps going back and forth and a lot of challenges. But we do not have to enact anything for ESTA yet until the contract expires as well. So that is put off to
For the
the
bargaining
side.
unit.
Yeah, and so, we were just, I just wanted to make it clear that this is for non-union employees and we will address the union group, when we go into contract negotiations.
Our, our intent would be to take this policy and apply it to the union, but we've got to do that through negotiations.
Okay.
And when does the current contract expire?
That would be in October of this year. So, I have spoken to their, business agent and they're hoping to have a letter to us come April or May, letting us know that they'll be ready to, get started.
And our goal is to get started early so that maybe we
Yes.
can have continuity in the contract.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, I would, I think for all parties, we would like to have that completed prior to the expiration date.
Okay.
That is the goal. So the changes to the policy as it relates to the non-union draft policy before you. We wanted to kind of walk through some of the changes. And then ultimately, at a future meeting, we would ask for adoption of the draft to a policy for non-union.
Okay, could we stop just a minute? Are there any questions at this point? Commissioner Green?
Just a point of information.
Sure.
The TPO AM contract, that's a 3-year contract, correct?
Yes,
Absolutely.
It has
Oh.
been.
it's here already. Doesn't it feel like we just did it?
That's fine. I didn't realize it was.
Yes.
Any other questions before we move forward? Okay. Go ahead,
Okay.
Matt.
So some of the changes would be, as proposed, is how we distribute the annual leave. Currently, when an employee starts, they do not have any annual leave. What we would like to do is change that to, at the start of employment, there would be 40 hours in a new employee's bank. That allows for us be somewhat of a recruiting tool, I think, that new employees would start with a 40-hour bank. Also, as we know, oftentimes life happens and people do have situations where they need to leave. And we've experienced some of that in our new employees where they've had to go unpaid. Where there's been situations where something comes up and they need to leave work. They obviously notify the supervisor, but then ultimately they're unpaid because they haven't accrued any time. So that's a change we'd like to make. And then we're not changing as far as the number of hours that are distributed, but how they're distributed for the first 2 years. So what we have here is a employment milestone for the first 24 months. So kind of put it in a table, simplify it. Start with 40 from the initial, and then over the course of a year, people would earn the 144, anyone from 0 to 4 years. And so how that 144 gets distributed, it'll get distributed at 3 months, 6 months, and then 12 months. And then what we've also heard from feedback on is it's a long period of time between that first year and second year. So we've added another milestone. At 18 months, they'll get half their allotment of the 144, which is 72 hours. And then the other half would be at the 24 months. I think that will certainly address those first 2 years of employment, which we've all heard from folks that it's a long 2 years because the way it's currently broken down, you don't get a lot of annual leave until that 2-year mark. So I think this is a vast improvement on where we're at now. And then the other changes I can go on, but I want to first stop and say Any questions on that?
Commissioner Yamas, Commissioner Green.
Does this replace, because I know as an incentive, we had automatic sick time, right?
No.
We did not.
We do not.
Okay,
So annual leave is everything.
okay.
Personal
So there's-
time, vacation time, sick time.
So there's no policy on sick time?
Correct.
Right now. Okay, thank you.
You bet. So that's one of the things that we're having this draft policy reviewed by legal to make sure we're in compliance with the Employee Sick Time Act.
Which might change because it's,
It is, it's ever changing, but we want to make sure we're in compliance with the law on the books as we know it.
okay,
There's always the opportunity or potential of revisions. on
Right.
laws,
right.
For sure.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you. So looking at section A, employment milestones, if I'm not reading this incorrectly, you start employment with 40 hours, and then in 3 months, it decreases?
No, you're assigned another 32.
It's additive.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Start with 40. Every new employee will start with a 40, and then they're gonna earn 144, which is our hours that we give for each year of service from 0 to 4. So that 144 gets distributed 32 hours at 3 months, 48 hours at 6 months, and then 72 at 12 months.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. And then that other second year, 144, it gets distributed at 72 at 18 months. And then the rest of it, 24 months, you get your 72 hours. So it kind of earn as you go in an accrual, but not really an accrual. You're just hitting certain milestones of time served, and then you're getting your annual leave allotments. What that does is it doesn't, or it takes into account that people get it sooner, because right now you pretty much have to wait to your 24 months to get the full allotment of 144, and that's a long period of time. And so we run into instances where employees have to leave without pay. And potentially could, if they don't manage their annual leave well, it could be a progressive discipline.
Anything you want to add, Nicole?
I would. I have 3 points I'd like to make. One, the biggest change here would be the additional 40 hours. So that's something we have not offered before. That would be an enhancement for a new hire. 2, this would only apply to those hired from the effective date that the board would pass this policy moving forward. So there is no retro to those that have been hired. And then 3, which I think is, going for non-union, we're typically hiring professional staff in our non-union that have already established careers. It's usually not someone's first place of employment. So I think having that 40 hours is, I would agree, a recruitment tool, because it's very difficult to start back at the beginning when you've maybe left a previous employer at 10 years and you've built up that bank and then you're starting over here. Also a reminder, when we're, giving time at 32 or even the 18 months, you're accruing that time as you work anyways. So if you left employment prior to receiving all of your time at your 10-year, we're going to prorate it anyways. So we're not giving them something that they haven't already earned when we're breaking it up in those first 2 years.
Commissioner Yamas.
They earn it weekly, monthly, how do they earn their?
Right. Well, so if you figure, if you're getting 144 for the year and you break that down by how many weeks there are, I think you're getting 13 hours a month,
Okay.
essentially. So that's why we don't give it ahead of
Immediately,
time,
like on-
because you haven't worked that to earn those 13 hours per month, and that's why you get it on your anniversary date. But we're spreading it out through those first 2 years because we know how hard it is when you're starting employment.
So I have another just technical question.
Yeah.
If someone is reading this, I kind of, what Commissioner Green said, would you say add how how are people supposed to know that
I
they're
think
gonna
we could
add?
do a
30?
total. I think we could adjust that and Matt, and maybe just at the.
Could
12
add
month-
another column for
Or-
cumulative.
Yeah, add a sentence, the same way B is listed, so people can understand. I think that's not a bad idea.
Great, thank you.
And you probably cover this in the onboarding
We talked
orientation.
about this, right, even before, like, during the interviewing
Mhm.
process, so that employee or potential employees are aware of the benefits and how that works, and especially when the offer is made, so that they have a clear understanding of what they're receiving as benefits. Yeah.
Generally, it's listed in the offer letter.
We do
Because it is a
describe
point of
it.
focus, I think, on a lot of employees that come to the organization. They want to know, well, how does this work?
Mhm.
I was also reassured by the use exceptions where it has to be approved by the supervisor that there could be the potential for significant disruption within the work schedule
We-
if there wasn't some kind of a control.
Yeah, and I mean, truthfully, we don't, especially if I think of operations, think of like opening day, right? Like how many people may want to take that off? They work that out amongst their crews. They are really good about making sure that they have, I'm saying not just the foreman, but the employees, that they're still going to have appropriate coverage within their district. I don't see this, we don't see this as an issue in our workforce.
Yeah, the language, we cleaned up a few things, but overall, it's very similar to the existing policy. The only other major change was we did have a separate policy on conversion. So if you turn to page 2, if you look at the heading carryover and conversion of annual leave. So previously, we adopted a policy for annual leave conversion. So if you had a bank, you can only carry over 30 days or 240 hours. And then we had a lot of employees that have large banks and they didn't use it all up, and they wondered if we could there was a desire for some sort of conversion program. So we did adopt that. This board had previously adopted a conversion program where we allowed up to 80 hours or 2 weeks of conversion into a deferred compensation or 457 plan. And so that is an existing policy. And then we just combined it to the overall annual leave policy. So essentially, we're combining 2 policies into one. That's where the language change is. So any questions on that?
Mr.
Commissioner
Warren,
Green?
thank you. So if an employee can carry over a maximum of 240 hours
Correct.
and they have over 20 years of service, does that mean that they could potentially have 480 hours of annual leave available?
Correct.
Okay.
In any given, yes, they could carry over 30 and then they would be awarded an additional 240, correct?
My only question of you is, how is finance with this change? The finance department,
Payroll, yeah,
just
we did
seems-
include them in the conversations and discussions, yes.
just seems intricate to manage in terms of accounting.
There's just one more time, which is at the 18-month mark.
Hmm.
So payroll is already awarding time outside, besides the day 1 and the 18-month, they're already meeting all the other deadlines, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner McCollum?
Yes, I like that we give the opportunity to convert excess annual leave for the employees. I do like that. I know there are situations where that doesn't happen, and
Instead of losing it.
yeah, instead of losing it. So I do like that, that stays there and it's been improved also. So thank you for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Nicole.
Thank you very much. All
Is
right,
there a need for a break? We're ahead of schedule a little bit here.
I'm good.
Looks like people are good to go, Matt. So
Okay.
let's just proceed with the winter maintenance update.
all right, I'm gonna ask that Adam Lake, if you wouldn't mind coming up. We're gonna roll right into our winter maintenance update.
Good morning, Adam Leap, Director of Operations. Kind of wait just a few moments here. Tiffany's gonna work on some setup and I'm gonna plug in here as well. And then we're waiting on one assistant superintendent to find his way. Okay, thank you. It's opening now. Maybe.
There you go. Well done.
Yeah. Okay. Good, okay. All right, well, thank you for having us this morning. Little
You
bit.
are.
Well, I am Adam Leap, Director of Operations. So I do have, kind of leading in with that, we're gonna have Tiffany Lobestall, who's our operations clerk. She'll be with us remotely. She'll be virtual on the call. And then Jared Powers, Assistant Superintendent, is finding his way here. He was set up to come in around 10, so he's gonna make his way back. And then with us in the room, Ken Harris, Superintendent of Maintenance, and then myself here, kind of walk you through this. So winter maintenance for us at the road commission, as you know, is intense, and this group of four kind of start the ball rolling, and primarily the two superintendents on our scheduling and really how we make our decisions day to day. And then obviously you hear about dry run prep and all the things we do with the foreman and the shop and the drivers and the operators. So this team kind of starts there and moves that forward. So all of them will kind of be up talking with us at different times, so they'll have times to speak as well and kind of introduce themselves. Excuse me.
Do you need us to take a break to give Jared a little breathing room to get here? I don't want him to come in and feel like he's on the hot seat without.
Yeah, he's gonna see if we can grab it. It's okay. We're on the hot seat every day, so we're good with snow and ice. This is, as we kind of laughed when we put this together, our group, this is nothing out of the ordinary for us, so we don't mind talking about it. But
Okay.
yeah, Jared was just attending to a few other things.
Okay, Commissioner Yamas,
I'd like to step up just for a minute. I'll be back.
okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Alrighty, so winter maintenance overview in general here for the road commission. So as you know, we have a winter maintenance policy. So that's what that policy does is kind of set us up how we perform our routes, how we perform the winter maintenance activity itself. So we have our first priority and our second priorities kind of blend together, but by words and by the document, we have first and second priorities. What that does is match up with MDOT's priority system. So we adopted that priority system as well. Our paved primary road system fits into that first priority with us. So first and second priority, those are the things we're working on all the time. Anytime we are here and it's snowing, we're actively on those routes. If there's some type of, whether it be blizzard, ice emergency, some type of winter weather emergency, and we were to work 24-hour shifts, those are the roads we'll be focusing on, because those are the roads that are really going to get services, emergency services to and from, get goods to and from, get people to and from work if necessary.
Could I just stop you? Nobody's
Yeah.
working a 24-hour shift, right?
When there's an emergency, so
A
a
person?
blizzard, yes, yeah, a blizzard or ice are the only events that we would work 24 hours a day. The rest of the time, we take ourselves off at 16-hour shifts. That's kind of our limit that we work with.
Hmm.
Yeah, so thankfully very, very minimal time that we have to work those emergencies.
Commissioner Yamas.
So I have a question about that. So you're
Mhm.
exempt from the law about how
Yeah,
WCRC is.
correct.
So how safe is that for our
Uh,
employees?
Well, that's why we don't do it very often. Some counties will roll into like a 24-hour shift and kind of work until the event's over. We don't do that. We stop ourselves at 16 hours. The only time that we even consider that is for actual emergencies where it's icing. And even then, we make sure the crews, in between routes is, as you'll see, and you've probably noticed even just through the watching our operation in general, there are times you have to come back, get material or get fuel or get the truck worked on. So drivers are able to get that opportunity to take a breath and get a little bit of time out of the truck because
And
24 hours.
that doesn't
is
happen
challenging.
very often. In your experience here.
Yeah.
It's been just
the
a
most-
handful.
Yeah, the most that I've ever had to do that was 3 days throughout an entire season. This year we haven't even, I don't think, touched that. And at this point, the way the season's shaping up, we hope to not have to do that, but there are those moments, but yeah, so we do have some exception to that because we're emergent service considered an essential employee. So we balance that risk, but yeah, it's not our first choice. But we do make it through safely and we usually bring more staff with us, so I'll come in, both superintendents will be here. We try to keep an eye on everybody and try to provide that relief. If it's just go check a route for a foreman so he can get in a truck and give a driver a break, we kind of take care of ourselves at that point. Because it's certainly atypical when we have to do that. Okay, and Jared Powers is in the room now. He's
Hi,
our
Jared.
assistant superintendent maintenance. We got started a little early, so thank you for coming in, Jared.
15 years.
Right.
We're staying over that long.
Yeah, so-
I've won 3 times since I've been here.
Yeah, so Jared, been on the road with us quite a few years, as you can see. So 3 times, 15 years, not too terribly bad. So we try to limit that. And then the rest of our priority system here, third priority being the subdivision roads. As you see us, we usually get into those sometimes during the weekend or once the snow has stopped. Then we gain control of the essentially paved primary road system. Then we'll get into those third priority roads. Some of our external crews that are the best example to the west side of the county, they have unpaved roads as well. Those routes are technically fourth priority, but we're able to get to those sometime sooner, as you'll see on the west side of the county, because we don't have as many subdivisions. So we're able to kind of shift gears a little bit. So just like our first and second priorities kind of merge and blend at some point throughout the event, the third and fourth priorities will do that as well. Just efficiencies, if a driver can get it on their main route, they may be able to swing through certain areas. That's kind of what we've used. We're going to talk about AVL here in a little bit. We've used that as an example for some of the coaching that if your route links with some of these second or third priority roads systems, maybe go through one of the main second priority roads in the course of your main route. That we'll explain that when we show you that here a little bit, but we've been working with that this year since we've got the AVL fully in the fleet now. That's been helpful as well. So it's kind of helping this priority system. Still, we have to maintain that because we have responsibility. Obviously from MDOT being contracted, we have responsibility to their road system as well. But so we're able to kind of do everything at once sometimes, which is really good. Some storms don't allow that, but good majority of the storms, the superintendents are able to kind of shift gears and shift crews around as best we can. Okay, so I'll touch real quick on the fleet, and then we'll get into kind of some hypothetical planning and talking about things and kind of get Tiffany and the superintendents up here to speak as well. So as it sets, we have about 45 to 55 heavy trucks. So those are dump trucks that can go out and actually perform winter maintenance. That varies obviously with service status. Some things break, so we kind of vary. Our goal is to have 48 trucks out on the route system at one time. Then as we either get enough snow or we begin to get icing, we'll shift and try to get into our 11 motor graders, try to use those. And then if we have enough snow to go into the subdivisions where we're actually physically plowing, we also have anywhere between 24 and 30 light fleet. So those are pickup trucks. Consider it a foreman pickup truck that'll have a plow on the front of it. Helps us move and maneuver a little bit easier in some of the subdivisions, cul-de-sacs, things like that, where we'll start deploying those as we get to a point where we have enough snow or the ability to get into these secondary systems. So it really weather, dependent for a lot of this, but that's kind of our process, how we also like prioritize what equipment we use throughout a storm.
Questions? Commissioner Green?
Yeah.
Just a real brief one.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that a different type of salt material goes on paved roads as opposed to unpaved roads, correct?
Correct, yes, and I'll kind of touch on that. Tiffany's gonna talk about the material and how much we've used so far, the end of 24, beginning of 25. But yes, so what we use is what you see is when we put bids in front of the board for acceptance of abrasives, snow and ice abrasives. It's usually either a sand mixture or what we refer to as a bird's eye grit. So it looks almost like a pea stone, a real small pea stone, what you would think would be the leftover stuff you see over on the curb line after winter and springtime rains, kind of push everything to the curb. That's what kind of looks like grit. So what that is basically just a river, like a natural stone. And that comes out of the sand production process. That's a byproduct from making sand. And so that's really good at fracturing the ice. And what it does is just provide traction for an unpaved. If we were to have really, really hard, dense ice on the paved roads as well, we could use that if we needed to as well. It's very good at, once traffic hits it, to actually break into the ice and what we refer to as crack the ice a little bit. So it's actually a really good abrasive to use for that, but you are correct. Yeah, it's different. Our goal is to not melt anything on the unpaved systems because they'll become saturated and soft really quickly. And so if you were to put the mineral well brine that we use, so the liquid brine or salt onto an unpaved road, it would basically melt itself down into the surface of the limestone or gravel, and it would start bringing the frost up out of the ground, which would actually make it like a premature springtime. So the road would become, honestly, the consistency of pudding if it got warm enough to do that. So yeah, we try to just put dry materials on the unpaved roads.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Most of you are probably very familiar with our mileage breakdown. You know, the top one is kind of where we start. We have about 4,000 lane miles that we need to take care of.
And Adam, that's, to me, that's a huge number to comprehend, because ultimately, when we talk about centerline miles, we're responsible for 1,650 miles. But then when you break it into some of our urban areas where we have multiple lanes, that's the reality they have to deal with in winter maintenance.
Yeah.
So that 1,650 miles turns into 4,000 lane miles.
Yeah, it's not as easy sometimes as just kind of driving through the road and it starts working. You know, sometimes you're making multiple trips. In the AVL video we're going to show, we'll show you that really quickly, because essentially they start coloring in the map when you're tracking the trucks, because there's so many movements that we have to make. So yeah, that's why the number quickly grows exponentially of how much work you have to do mileage wise when you're sending a person out to cover, you know, one route. That's done with obviously 8 crews. And then we do, now this year we made a change from 4 people to 5 people for our night patrol. MDOT was supportive of that, so it worked out great. We have a really good team this year for our night patrol, so that's been helpful. Mother Nature's been kind of nice to us at the moment right now, so we haven't truly been able to see the success of that group, but we're really excited for when we do have snow. An extra person on the freeway system is incredibly, it's an improvement on what we've had.
And Adam, what are
really
the
think that-
times for night patrol? What are the shift hours for night patrol?
So as we kind of touched before, we can work a 16-hour. We try to limit ourselves at that. So we're 4 a.m. on our day shift, 4 a.m. to about 8 or 8:30 p.m. at night. And then at 8 p.m., that night patrol group will come in. Of that small group of 5, we'll work to about 4 or 4:30 in the morning. Now, if we have enough vehicles or the need has changed where we're sending out motor graders or we're using the light fleet, so the smaller pickup trucks with front plows, we can keep those 5 people and they work the rest of their shift. So they'll work their 16 till 12 p.m. So they'll work through the morning until lunchtime and help us. So they become auxiliary at that point to us. But we usually don't deploy that group in the daytime and affect their sleep until we really have enough snow that it's worthwhile to send them out to plow.
The
Commissioner
bulk of
Cohen, I'm
our
sorry.
crews, just in summary, the bulk of our crews typically for winter events are pre-scheduled,
Correct.
start at 4 a.m., work until 8. So that really takes care of things prior to morning peak hour and then works us through afternoon peak hour. And we get it the best we can. Then we hand the reins over to our night patrol And then if we need to, we pre-schedule another 4 AM. So we generally speaking, don't get into those situations where we're having crews work 24 hours.
Correct.
We recognize it's very safe. The safest is have a rested workforce, and we'll get a lot of rest on 16-hour days, but at least it's some. So that's generally speaking how I've observed it over the last couple of years on how we manage these snow events.
Correct. And it's planned out as well. Like, that scheduling is able to allow the employee to kind of control their destiny a little bit. They know what time they need to get up. It's not an emergency call-in where we kind of wake them up out of bed, out of a deep sleep, and need them to come to work within an hour. Also, the main reason for no 24-hour shifting here in this county, which I would love to have that type of shifting, not with individual employees, but like a 12-hour shift and then break in 12-hour shift. But we wouldn't recognize any efficiencies at this point because the traffic volumes drop off so drastically on essentially even the freeway system, but even our primary system, the volume just drops like a rock. And what I mean by that is, you go thousands of cars an hour to maybe 5 cars an hour on some of the primary. North Territorial would be a good example, where our material becomes useless at that point because we're almost like plowing a parking lot at that point. We need traffic to work our material in and get the road clearing for itself. So all we would be doing is just driving around and plowing our own material off the road. So that's why this agency has never really made that change. We just don't have the traffic or the need from the traffic yet.
By material, you mean de-icing salt that's
Correct.
on the road. The de-icing salt allows it to work in traffic by going over it, crushes it, creates
And
almost
cracks
like
it
a
through.
brine.
They do, yeah. And so they end up creating that kind of secondary brine that we need, which is what starts to melt ice and snow. But yeah, with no traffic, you don't really get that. So that's why it hasn't really been a necessity for us, which is fine because that protects us a little bit. That's a little bit of cost protection for the agency. Because it is expensive to run buildings and equipment for 24 hours a day through a storm, if you're not really making progress.
Commissioner McCollum, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to figure out the total lane miles, because you said there's 4,000 total lane miles, and then when I add all the other three come to 2,918, which would leave 1,082 miles left. Oh, I'm not sure. How
No,
does that
no,
work?
you're closer to number. So some of these it's just estimated averages.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, estimated mileage as well. But what is hard for us to calculate everything all at the same time because the primaries have so many extra turn lanes and deceleration lane, that all finds its way in the math. But yes, so that last 1,000 miles that you're figuring up are some of these deceleration lanes or
Okay.
a center turn lane that runs for a half mile or Jackson Avenue or Jackson Boulevard out here. You probably have 3 miles in just the little ins and outs, little crossover. So it's hard to calculate. So we try to just average that.
Okay.
We know tip to toe, so to speak, on the state trunk line, you go one end to another, we can get that calculation and that's more consistent. But with all of our turn lanes and Ann Arbor Saline's another road as an example where you have multiple lanes in certain areas, the mileage just kind of piles up. So we try to estimate that. We certainly don't overestimate by any means. I'm sure if you probably tracked it, it's probably a little more than that by the time we get done making all our turns and we have to kind of go over ourselves at some point to get back to the other side. But that's probably why the 1,082 is a little bit different there because I checked the math as well. And it's like, I know it's accurate, but I know that it's estimated too, because you have to make estimation at some point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Commissioner Green?
Yes. Do we receive any federal funds for the maintenance of the interstate highways, or does it come through MDOT?
It technically comes through MDOT. In theory, though, there's federal funding in that MDOT.
Yeah, I
Contracted service.
I think the contracted service typically is Michigan Transportation Funds.
More than
for
likely,
winter
yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Federal funds are usually for construction projects or preservation projects. For maintenance, typically
Probably
it's
comes from
Michigan
the fund.
Transportation Funds. But regardless, we cash the MDOT's check.
Yeah.
When it comes, where it comes
Yeah.
from.
Quickly, right, Dan?
Yeah, so the maintenance costs are really the only thing we really function in. They probably use those federal dollars, like Matt said,
Yeah.
to build us the road to maintain. But as far as that, it becomes just maintenance fee at that point. And that's all we're contracted for as well.
Yeah, much like our organization, we don't use federal funds for maintenance. We use our Michigan transportation funds for winter maintenance activities. I would expect the same from the state. But we can follow up and verify that.
Okay.
All right. So now we'll do a little bit of hypothetical planning here. This is from a storm a few years back. But really what we're going to talk about is because I want to bring kind of Ken and Jared a little bit and kind of talk about the day-to-day with how we plan. So starting on the left side of the screen, you see we're basically, this is, let's call it a March, like a February, March event. Kind of starting to warm up a little bit. Little drastic on the far side, on the right side with 6 to 7 inches of snow. But for a general understanding, this is a good description. So you're starting an event where it's a little bit warmer, you're going to get rain, then it starts to taper off a little bit and you start to get a little bit of ice, but then it quickly transitions to where you get the snow. And so then you see these warmer temperatures, but bring you lots of snow sometimes. So let's say mid-20s or so. What's going to happen is, and I'll start bringing kind of Ken and Jared in here to talk a little bit. So if you guys want to come up and you can introduce yourself and then we'll touch base on that.
I'm Jared Powers, Assistant Superintendent.
Ken Harris, Superintendent.
All right, so now we kind of got the team here, so to speak. Ken and Jared will start seeing this, a few days out, and they'll start making their plans where they think they're going to go. And what I mean by where we think we're going to go is we talk a lot about the wind and the temperatures during the event, and then also what's going to happen after the event. So we try to start in simple terms of, is it going to be windy? Is it going to be warm or cold? So what can we do with the snow? And then they start devising their plan. So I kind of touch Ken here real quick and have him talk. Ken looks a lot at the wind. He focuses on the wind. So when him and I were superintendents, I would usually focus on what kind of temperature we have. Ken would pay attention to the wind because I would normally start the events because I would work in the morning, and Ken would usually get the events either partway through or towards the end of the event in the afternoons. So he'd focus on the wind. So if you want to maybe talk a little bit about that and how it affects maybe some of the way the snow moves, or does the ice work or salt work, excuse me.
Yeah, so when we're evaluating storms, there's certain websites we tend to use, and in the past I've always used, there's a wind map website that I always use, and that kind of shows where the wind path is going. Because when we're doing workday extensions in particular, I need to know what's going on really out in Battle Creek area, because we got to plan way ahead. So what's happening in Battle Creek, is that going to transfer into Jackson? Is that going to transfer in our county? So we can keep guys, I got to notify guys 1 o'clock so they can make sure they get their manners in order, and if they can stay, if it doesn't affect the family too much. We have those occasions where it comes up automatically. We have to notify guys limited amount of notification, but we try to minimize it as much as possible. But using weather, like MDOT interactive map shows us a good snapshot of what's going on out to the west or to the south, to the north, that has some video footages, some MDOT interactive plow trucks we're able to take a look at. Utilizing weather.com for a lot of the radar, projected radars seem to go really well. NOAA has a great website that I utilize a lot for wind direction, speed, what kind of precipitations, if there's going to be sleet, ice, snow. And then lastly, just trying to work with Jared and Adam and trying to devise what the best plan is. And some of them is being very proactive. But what's coming, the snow squall season is always the toughest. It doesn't show up on the radar all the time. So sometimes we just have to be as proactive as possible and keep the guys over, or we're trying to plan for the following day. But utilizing all those resources is a great start for us to start devising those plans.
Thank you, Ken. So let's call that the beginning of the event. Now we'll talk about, as Ken's, carrying us through the event, kind of brings Jared into the picture here. So we have the diagram in front of you, the graphic to show you that. We faced something similar to this, obviously less snow totals, but 2 weeks ago, so the 11th, I believe, 11th and 12th was a weekend event where we had some warmer temperatures, but we knew frigid air was coming and we were going to get into this bit of a cold spell. So what Jared did was Jared and Ken started working and planning what they were going to do. And we knew with having decent temperatures over the weekend hours that we were going to have to go into the subdivision. So that's where Jared and Ken kind of get to that point, and then Jared usually has that group in the afternoon sometimes that's gonna go into the subs and start kind of melting those and getting those ahead of the frigid temps, because if we leave that snow, it stays and we become, we basically own it until it warms up again because of the hard pack ice that is. So Jared, I don't know if you want to highlight a little bit of kind of your thought process when we go into subdivisions and why we try to get through them one time before it gets colder.
We can use last week as an example. So we, after looking at everything, we knew it was gonna drop. Everybody knew it was gonna drop, starting yesterday, into this next couple days. So last week we had the event and, we went into our subs, at the end of the week, even though we really didn't have a ton of snow in there to justify going in and blading, but we knew we had to get some material in there for all the bonded down stuff that was on there, because knowing that if it snowed more and we were on our primary routes, or even if it didn't snow anymore and we had these cold temperatures, it was just gonna get worse and it's just gonna sit there. So looking ahead, saying, okay, we know the temperatures are gonna fall below zero or freezing, 0 degrees, or negative at night. We wanted to go in there. We had sunny days in the afternoons last week and good temperatures. So we went in there, we bladed them, shot them with salt, and they all opened up beautifully beforehand. So now when these freezing temperatures there, they're sitting in a good position. We don't really have to do anything with them. We also went to our gravel roads the day after that to do the same thing. And I'm glad we did, because after we got that rain, it was worth it 100 times over again. So it's just important to look ahead. Yeah, we started on our primary routes and that's our number one concern and our number one goal is to get those cleared off. But you also have to be looking ahead at the subdivisions and the gravels to kind of figure out which step we're gonna take next. And sometimes we have to go back to our primaries. We've had plenty of storms where we pull off our primaries, they're looking pretty good. We start in our subdivisions and all of a sudden it starts snowing again, you pull back out of there. So it gets tricky, right? Because some people say, well, you didn't do my sub. Well, no, we didn't, because we had to go back to our primary routes. So that's our number one concern when it comes to removing the snow, keeping it safe. So.
Yeah, and on that event on Thursday last week, the temps about midday were around, I don't know, high 20s. We had minimal sky cover, so we took that into account, and the subs are starting to get mealy, so starting to slush up a little bit, so we're easy to plow them off. Or if we would have waited till the next morning, the morning's always a little bit colder in the mornings, and those subs would have taken a little bit harder time to meal up. So we decided to do a workday extension, which we won't do that all the time for subs in particular. But we kept the guys in subs. We got through all of our subs because the weather allowed it. The temperatures were where we needed to be, so we had to make that call. And a lot of that was projected thinking, like Jared talked about, knowing the freeze down's coming next couple of days, and knowing the next day we want to focus the whole day on our soft surface roads, and it worked out really well, taking that approach towards it.
And just for the board's understanding, how it works with Ken and Jared, if you could speak to how you guys are on, one of you is always on.
Yeah, ever since Adam and I were both superintendents, Jared runs the morning shift during the week and I run the afternoon shift. So anything, the night shift, if there's something that comes in, the night shift needs us. The night shift will report to Jared almost on a daily basis on what the roads look like before they leave. And the early morning call-in is needed. Like this morning, we had the northern part of the county, early morning call-in was needed. That worked through Jared in the morning. I will run the workday extensions in the afternoon shift. And then on the weekends, we take every other weekend. So this upcoming weekend would be, I think it's my weekend's upcoming, Jared's weekend was this weekend. And on holidays, we usually end up switching where I'll take Christmas and Jared will take New Year's. So we're allowed some flexibility there. If something happens, we're able to fill in each other and help out.
So they are
Every
able to
morning
make
they
the
call. Night patrol calls me every morning at 3 a.m. If we know, if something's like last night, for example, northern side of the county had snow. So they called me at 3:02, said, hey, this is what we got, this is what we're seeing, this is what's going on. I get up, I usually go drive or lap, or I start calling guys right away if I know they gotta come in. So this morning I called in, everybody from 94 north basically was getting called in to cover, because I knew they had snow. And then I went and drove south and to the east to make sure I didn't have to call anybody on the south end. So that's how that works. They call me every morning at 3 if needed, if we gotta come in early, if we're not pre-scheduled.
So when do you sleep?
Not very often.
And I'm not being
No,
facetious.
Springtime.
Yeah, I mean, you just know what's coming, you check your phone and try to get to bed when you can,
Yeah.
that's just the way the world is, but.
Yeah,
You
then
sleep.
I'll coordinate with night patrol in the afternoon. If we gotta bring in night patrol early, sometimes we'll bring them in at 6 o'clock. Allow our day shift to go home if we're gonna be rescheduled before. And sometimes the traffic volumes get so busy that it doesn't make sense to have everyone here on all the routes until 8. There is some days it does warrant that. We'll make that call with the state trunk line foreman and bring night shift in early.
What I have appreciated in all three of these gentlemen, they bring a vast amount of experience. They take a very proactive approach. They recognize that even though we are spending some time on overtime, for instance, the subdivision example, you're avoiding the subdivisions or back roads turning into ice rinks. You're also avoiding and knowing the effort that it's going to take to break an ice rink up. That actually is going to be more effort than it would have been just to do an ounce of prevention, right? So they do an excellent job. And I certainly appreciate all the work they do. They also do a great job of communicating to myself. So I'm aware of what the crews are doing and Adam. And so the leadership team here is aware of what's going on. Like Tiffany, she gets a call, she's got the text or the email from the superintendents on where we're at with things. So they do a great job of communicating.
Yeah, we do communicate with our HVA, our after hours services as well. So any one of our plans are, so they're aware of who to contact sometimes they contact us on the radio via trying to reach us via the phone. So we're able to notify them at all of our storm events.
All right, thank you, guys. Yeah, that's really, I guess, key word is self-preservation. You know, when do you sleep? That's why we try to do a lot of the pre-scheduling and try to coach the group up and let them know kind of where our mind is a couple of days in advance if we can. So you can kind of control that moment where you do you be able to get a little bit of rest. And that little bit of feeling that you're still kind of in control of your life. Because it is challenging. It is hard sometimes that it seems like they keep calling and you never quite get finished. But that's why we kind of split it up that way and try to take advantage of that. And then God forbid you have me as an auxiliary if these two get worn out. So but they're really good at it, so we really don't need that. But nonetheless, that's kind of the plan to try to preserve ourselves as we go. So what we will do here is there's obviously costs associated with everything, but we're gonna give an opportunity for Tiffany to unmute and speak here real quick, and then we'll come back up here in a moment with the group we talk about AVL.
I want to point out that we've got more than one Tiffany on the team.
Yes. So
we
Tiffany.
talk about Tiffany.
Yeah, so Tiffany Lovestall,
First.
Tiffany Lovestall is our operations clerk. Tiffany Oliphant will get to speak here in a little bit as well, but Tiffany Lovestall is on the call virtually with us. She's going to present this slide and just touch base on some of the materials we've used at the end of 24 and beginning of 25, because our years kind of overlap there a little bit because we have that, basically October to January 1 or December 31st, where we're kind of in the previous fiscal year. So Tiffany tracks all our material usage throughout the county. And so Tiffany was gracious enough to be able to call in today on her virtual day. So Tiffany, please go ahead and touch base on some of the material we used this year.
Hey, good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, please identify yourself.
Yep, I am Tiffany Lobestall. I'm the operations clerk. So one of my duties amongst the others in the wintertime is to track the material usage and then order material throughout our winter storms. So what you guys are seeing there is our material usage from November and December of 2024 through the beginning of this year so far. So we've used roughly 10,000 tons of salt, 1,100 tons of abrasives, and those abrasives are what Adam was mentioning earlier, the bird's eye grit and then the sand, and then 36,000 gallons of brine. And all of this use has been over approximately 25 days of winter events. And then there's some costs associated with that, obviously. So our salt costs this year has actually gone down from last year. It's gone down just over $1.50 per ton. We pay $56.99 for our early fill salt deliveries. So at the end of the winter season, we kind of look back at our salt use and then we look ahead and we place our orders for the upcoming season. And then they deliver it in two parts. So there's the early fill and then there's our in-season fill, which starts in December. And so that early fill number was $56.99 this year, and it was $57.86 last winter season. So it went down, and then our in-season cost is $53.80 this year compared to $55 last year. So that is helpful. And so we're about halfway through this season so far, I would say, and these numbers are kind of tracking with our average use, which you'll see in a couple slides. We've got a chart that kind of shows that year to year.
Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so,
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
yeah, so I say it multiple times throughout the year, but Ken, Jared, and myself we'll be lying to you if we didn't tell you Tiffany is the brains behind this. So she tracks that material, knows when to order. The chart she's going to describe here in a little bit. The graph really shows we always kind of find our way back to the middle of annual usage, but someone's got to pay attention to that. You know, we have to plan and kind of do our other things, make sure the crews are maybe even doing some maintenance in between the winter maintenance. So Tiffany's behind the curtain, making sure the material's set up properly. And we put a lot of faith in her, and Tiffany is exceptional at that. She's been able to hit the numbers that just the 3 seasons her and I've been doing it together, but even the time before that, when Ken and I were superintendents and Jim Harmon was director, she was always hitting the right numbers, and we were never overspending, never had salt running out the doors, or we were never empty. You know, we always controlled our destiny with that. And so she's very good at that. And so we're lucky to have her.
And Adam, just for description, we also track our usage each shift, right? Because the material is getting charged out in the kiosk, correct?
Yep, that is correct. So that's how Tiffany's able to kind of get these numbers and have some understanding of what's going on in the moment. So she'll get it. Usually takes a day or so by the time we get the numbers in, but our operators will put how much they used. And granted, some of that's estimation, and that's okay because we teach everybody how to estimate properly. Then it works through the foreman. They review those numbers. Then Tiffany can review what the foreman finally approved. And then Ken and Jared can see it, and myself, we can see it. Inevitably, then Tiffany's given a pretty comfortable number where we're pretty confident where we're at. Sometimes we'll go out and do a visual estimation, actually see it in the material buildings, because we only have 5 buildings holding that. So it's not terribly hard to see all the places where the salt sits, for example.
Commissioner Yamas, did you have a question?
He answered it. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, and so then we take kind of those estimations and then actually put a number to it. And then that's how we track our inventory essentially. And then Tiffany will place those orders. And so this week we'll start getting some more orders in. Tiffany got crafty with District 3. In Chelsea, they wanted to get through all their salt a few weeks ago because we were getting some salt that was kind of old in the back of the building. Because salt has a little bit of shelf life. So Tiffany worked with the foreman, Scott Burby, and they ran the salt down about as low as you can get it. And it had the orders sitting there waiting to come back. As soon as we used up all the salt, we're getting fresh salt in there and off we go. So that's that planning and that coordination. And you know, we're competing with 80 other counties at least that are probably trying to get material off the docks there. So you know, she's crafty on how we order it. It's state bulk purchasing, so it's prices and everything are easy they're there, it's bid, we're ready. But you still got to get your name in the hat to get an order. So she has a good relationship with Detroit Salt, and so we do pretty good there.
Questions, Commissioner Green?
The brine is typically for the unpaved roads, correct? No.
No, so the brine, all it is liquid. It's the same brine we use, the mineral well brine we use for dust suppression. So it's calcium, magnesium, and sodium. No, that's used to jumpstart or activate our actual rock salt. We use the abrasives, so the 1,100 tons of abrasives, that's what's used on the unpaved roads. Okay. Yeah, we do use the brine in the summertime on the unpaved road system, because then in the summer, we want the road to grab all the moisture it can. But in the wintertime, we want it frozen and dry, essentially, as long as we can keep it so it doesn't get real soft and muddy. So it's kind of a contrary, it's invert to what you would think it would be.
But the brine is used in coordination with the de-icing materials on the heavy trucks. So a lot of most of our heavy
Oh.
trucks have the tanks and do pre-wetting as it comes out of the salters.
Anywhere between like 10 gallons to 100 gallons per ton of salt can be put on. We usually end up somewhere between like 10 and 20 gallons per ton of material. And all it is just an activator. And what the technical side of it is prevents bounce and scatter. And what that means is when rock salt is dry, it'll just bounce around and break up and kind of roll off the road. When we put the brine on it, brine is considerably heavier than water itself. It's 11 pounds a gallon, where water is about 8.5 pounds a gallon. So it makes the salt heavier and makes it stick in the road, on the road, or stick in the snow. And being that it has calcium in it and magnesium, which are really, they're really hygroscopic, so they're even more powerful than sodium. You pair all that up with the rock salt and it really activates it. It makes it very hot, which is great. It really starts cutting that material, whatever you have, whether it be snow, ice, whatever's on the road, it really starts breaking that up quick. And being that it's liquid already in a liquid form, traffic can drag it further, which is actually good. Traffic can drag salt for miles down the road. If you put just a little bit, like right outside the door here at Zeeb, I always use the example when we're doing training, put a little bit of salt at our doorstep and drove all the traffic past our doorstep, it'd take it all the way down to where Zeeb Road turns into the, like Scioto Church, miles down the road. Because it just keeps tracking and tracking. Now, it gets less potent as it gets tracked through, but that's the intention of trying to keep the salt in one spot and let the traffic move it for you. It's opposite of what you do when you plow a parking lot, because then you truly do broadcast it and want to spread it all around, because you don't have traffic driving it to and from. You just have foot traffic moving it all around. So when we have thousands of cars an hour on some roads, that's the best to let the traffic do it for us. So that's why it brings me back to why we don't really work at night too often, just simply because we don't have a lot of traffic helping that.
Anything else, Commissioner Green?
Yes, I'd also like to thank Ken and Jerry and Phil for the outstanding job that you did last week. I actually saw the trucks in our subdivision, and I was pleasantly surprised to see them working so quickly to get those
Thank you.
roads
Yeah,
cleared.
thanks. That's, and like I say, that's that planning side of things. That's those hypotheticals we're always talking about, and we kind of have a goal most of the time of where we think we can go. Sometimes Mother Nature changes that for us in the midst of an event. But Ken and Jared usually set out with what they know they need to do and what the end result needs to be. And then we just kind of work backwards from there. So that is all these two in their planning.
Thank you.
Glad you all get along.
Yes. Well, it's not
Most
every
of the
day.
time.
Yeah, not every, no. They do great. And that's that field experience that Matt alluded to, that really, we understand what it feels like from behind the windshield also. So we try to plan what our people are gonna feel and see when they're out there too. And then that's all the training we do to try to continually empower the drivers. So I'll move us to the next slide and we'll start talking about AVL. And this is another kind of coaching tool and thing we're using to actually give some data to help the operators learn more and be kind of in control of their destiny as we're out there, and understand that, we're all pushing for the same goal. And so it makes it easier for everybody to go that direction when we've talked about it a few times. All right, we'll go one more slide. Tiffany, are you on the slide, or can I play that? Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna play a slide, and then we'll have the superintendents come up and we're gonna talk again about what we've been doing with our new AVL system and how we've been using it for coaching and training, and also we've talked about it a little bit, gives Tiffany Oliphant an opportunity to have her team have things to post and show, neat little graphics. So I'm gonna play this. It's about a minute long. Tiffany, help me with that.
Commissioner McCollum has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Quick one, what
Go
does
ahead.
AVL stand for again?
That's automatic vehicle location.
Thank you.
Is there a way to increase the contrast in this map? Ms. Tiffany Oliphant?
Maybe, would you like me to play it and see if we can?
Right, let me
Color
play it.
profile?
Let's see how you
Okay.
can see it.
Move the color. Is that still okay? Or if not, I can explain.
Yeah,
Kind of hard to see still.
the Pac-Man part is fine. It's just if you're
Okay.
looking at the map and trying to.
Yeah,
so-
sorry. So what you're looking at is our District 1 group from that Saturday event on the 11th. What you're seeing is basically, it's called a replay on our system, but it'll pull about a 12-hour period. You can pull a little bit longer, but it's a lot of data to download. So there's, I think we have 5 trucks on the screen here, and this is around this main yard area. So we're getting, let me see how, we're about partway into the presentation or into the video here. And so essentially the group they finished their first round because it's 11 a.m. But now you're going to start seeing the little dots, which are the trucks, just start filling in the same spot over and over and over again. That's when we made the decision, when the superintendents had them go into the subdivisions. And so that's where you really see that, you see that how much it takes. And so that's where you start adding up the mileage because you got to go around and you go back. And so it is actually pretty neat to watch that, but that's what our AVL system has kind of presented us to work with. So kind of bring the superintendents up here.
Restart the video. Do it again.
Start it again?
Yeah, do
Okay.
it again.
So we'll play it again and then we'll touch base.
And the video starts at 4 a.m. and goes till about noon.
Correct. And so this
We
is,
can zoom in and see, like, when we're looking at it, we obviously can zoom in.
Yeah.
To each street, right, if need be.
yep. So we'll kind of pause it here so you guys have a moment to look at it while we're talking, but what this is how everything kind of works out throughout a storm. Now, it would be great. We put in a request with Verizon. We would love to figure out a way to get all the data if we could put our entire crew on here for one even 12-hour period, but right now the system can't take that kind of download at once, but it would be phenomenal to be able to see that. Honestly, we'd probably run out of colors. That's probably the first part is they
You
don't
mean
have. colors.
countywide?
Yeah, to be able to get the whole county. But at the beginning of this, that they probably don't have enough colors to, designate all the trucks, and that's a lot of data. It takes some time for this to to upload on your computer. So, but what we've used this for is specifically, there's a route that's red to the south. And what that is, it takes you down Zebro, it takes you down towards Ann Arbor Saline Road in that area. That's a route we've been looking at for years because we know it's busy. We know there's a lot of lane miles, physical lane miles to be done there. We've always had our assumptions of how long it took and how hard it was for the operator to take. We've all rode with the operator, followed it ourselves, Mr. Powers. And always known that we need to break it up, but we never knew the right way. So one of the first events we had this year, Ken and Jared pulled down the data and the operator, his name is Pat from District 1, was out there running and partway through his first round. So that's the first time through the whole route. He had to stop and come back I-94 to get more material. And so we kind of realized right then and there that he only could get about halfway to the south, halfway down his route, which matched up with all of our assumptions we've had for all these years that we need to split that in half by north and south. And so now we finally had a map that just showed us, yeah, you're right, you need to switch that. So our goal now is next year when we get new trucks, we're going to try to retain some that are better spares, as we call them, and reassign that to a route there. We have enough bodies on the staff that we can do that. Now put 2 trucks where 1 used to be, and that'll cut that route time in half. Just 1 route. And so there's probably 3 or 4 routes throughout the county that we really want to evaluate like that. But it's pretty neat to finally see the computer, and it's also good because it means that these 2 are seeing the right thing in the field as well. So it's a way we can test, our assumptions with actual data now. So that's what's been really good with AVL this year. And then if you guys want to talk a little bit about coaching, it's been great to be able to bring employees in and let them see, maybe if you turn left here might work, or if you turn right here might help. Try to figure out which is best for us. And so if you guys maybe want to take that away and touch on that a little bit.
So when was AVL instituted, just so we get a sense of how recent this?
So this is first time for this agency to use this. We had a demo last year, but it was just 2 trucks. It was actually a grader and a truck. But so we've only had it in our fleet essentially just this year. So just a couple, these 25 times we've been out. Yes?
I just, the colors just are for routes.
They just signify just a different truck number. If you were to zoom really far in, all it is a truck number.
Okay,
Not a specific color to anything. It's just the system assigns that color for that
Okay.
report. Most of the time, the trucks are green if you're only looking at 1. But you start adding other ones, they just give you different colors to signify which ones go in different directions.
okay.
Commissioner Green?
So is the AV locator on all the heavy trucks?
Yep, we still have 22 to put it on, but that's some of our sign trucks, some of our semis, things that aren't on snow and ice. I think we had 3 trucks that were broke down when we did it, that we still have to add them to. But essentially, our snow and ice fleet has all the system.
And our graders.
Yes, so our motor graders have it as well. A little different, obviously, just the fact that they're not, going 20, 30 mile an hour. They're kind of scraping a little slower, but you would still see them if you pulled them up on theirs when they go out on the run. Yeah, so if you want to talk
I'll
maybe head
start,
coaching,
so,
how
yeah.
we've done some of that.
So, first of all, I go back a little bit. I think it's really, really helpful for all of us and for our employees because I don't know how many times yet, but I know probably half a dozen times where it has actually helped us a lot when it comes to a resident calling in or an accident, mailbox taken out, any of that sort of stuff. You use your imagination. Whereas before it was somebody else's word, saying, hey, you guys knocked over my mailbox. Well, we've used it probably 3 different occasions now on mailboxes where the front camera, you can clearly see there's a mailbox laying on the ground before our driver even gets there. So it really does help defend our people and say, that they know that they did not hit your mailbox. It was already laying on the ground. Before that, we had an accident, I know, where somebody that actually changed the police report, they put us at fault. And then after seeing the video, clearly it was not our fault. So it really protects our people, as far as that goes, when it comes to that. But for coaching stuff, it's good for all of us. We actually can see, we drive around and look at everybody and watch them. But we don't follow them around like a puppy dog and on every road. So this is a way for us to sit there and look at it and see, what are we missing? What's what part of the route is not getting covered like it should be, and trying to learn from that and say, okay, how can we go about this differently, or how can we change something up, or add a person here, or take a person from here and have them help over here. I think that's important because it makes us that much more efficient when it comes to covering stuff. Obviously if you zoom into these, after we get off these are a primary route, but you go to our subdivisions. The lines just start filling in everywhere in all these streets, but sometimes something gets missed. We have other subdivisions that contractors plow part of a sub. And so those get confusing sometimes, because if one of our drivers drives by, especially if it's one of our newer guys, well, somebody already plowed that one. Well, they did plow part of it, but they didn't plow the whole thing. So like now I can say, if somebody calls and say, we missed a street, it's very easy for us to go in there and say, yeah, you're right, we did miss a street. We can see that with our own eyes, and it's pretty easy to narrow it down. So very helpful tool. I'll let Ken explain some more.
Maybe talk about how we did this time when we saw different direction to go.
Yeah, so the AVL, as Jared, you support, it is a very helpful tool for us to have. When I get into the mindset of AVL, it is a tool for us to evaluate and train some of the newer guys as well. You have some newer staff that this may be their first snow event. So to be able to bring them into the yard, to coach them through what their mindset was when they approached their route. Because the first couple snow events we've had this year have been a lot of icing events, or a lot of minor snow routes where they can get away with taking a different approach. But when we have a heavy snowfall, they have to have a different mindset. So this allows us to bring them in, sit down, talk with them a little further. We can show them the exact route they take. Luckily, they have a seasoned foreman. They have myself, Jared, Adam, that can all help them out with allowing them to have that little different mindset. And for instance, when Rod, you talked about, we got into some of those subs ahead of time. That's what we're trying to empower these guys, the confidence to dip into those subs when it's needed. And to be able to drive past a route and say, oh, stop. If your route is in good shape, take the mindset of dipping into these. You know where your busiest roads are. You know where the schools are at near your routes. Like, take advantage of those routes when the time allows it. So utilizing that and just trying to increase awareness. We do a 0 to 3 year training with a lot of our new hires. And we do that every single year before winter. And we've always talked about areas of concern, subdivisions that have high traffic, subdivisions that have a lot of cars parked that we can't get into. We've never really had that video footage or those pictures. And now being able to take the snapshots off of AVL, we can use those as training tools. We see instances where cars spin out in front of cars in front of you as a plow truck driver. It's hard to share that with a new hire, those hazards that they're gonna have to be experienced. We could talk about it. Jared's been in the truck, Adam's been in the truck, but for them to physically see a video of it and utilizing AVL as that tool, I think it does benefit them a lot farther by having those tools available to them.
And Ken, just to add to that, in my weekly update on Friday, in the last 3 years, since 2022, we've had 33 new employees. That's a quarter of our workforce. So that's, to me, a big advantage to be able to have these tools to learn and teach and get better, especially a newer workforce.
So the AVL not only allows you to know where the equipment is, but there's the dash cam element to it as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And is that recorded? Is that retained? Is it? Yeah.
You have to download, it is retained. We don't see all of it unless we request a video of a certain time, so if we have a question about a certain driver, a certain truck, we go in and say, we need to request a video from
Huh.
this truck at this
Really?
time.
Yeah, it stays on Verizon's servers and all their, basically their data.
Okay.
So you make a call for, you literally call for a video download, and it'll give you 40-second increments of whatever time you ask for. And so then if there's like a catastrophic event, there's a memory card in the camera that they can extract and pull out of that. And then you could read that memory card if you had to, for some reason, if like it didn't communicate back, or even in areas where the service, the cellular service is not that good, you can use it for that if you had to. For the most part, our perception's good enough here that it'll hit somewhere, throughout the course of a round or whatever, a driver, wherever they're going, it'll hit and upload videos if needed. But for us to pull that, the vehicle has to be running for about 9 to 15 minutes, somewhere in there is what 9 seems to be the average, but I say 15 because sometimes with reception, you never know. But so the vehicle has to be powered on and running. So if we need a video, we have them start the truck and then it'll send it. And within about 45 minutes, you'll get the actual footage back, which is fine. I mean, for the moments where you need it, we're not living in the moment like that where we don't need it live for us. We can do all our building and planning and anything we need, or protect liability with having a delay like that. Doesn't affect us much.
Yeah, it is interesting when you start talking with some of the new hires and what their mindset and their approach they take on particular routes. And the good thing is that helps us evaluate how we're training new hires and if we can do anything better to train them moving forward. And there's some mindsets that people come from different industries where they plow the parking lot and stuff. And it's a good training tool to have that AVL to be able to teach them and also talk with them, because sometimes it's nice to just get them in a room and find out what their mindset was and give them scenarios and how they would approach that, and then allow the foreman to build that confidence with them and allow us to work with them as well.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm mesmerized here about everything I'm hearing.
Some videos get deleted after a certain time period. How long are these videos retained, if you know?
So we know it to be 90 days or less. I mean, if I'm assuming, and this is assumption, but if the truck's operating more, let's say we had 3 days of 16 hours a day, it may shorten that time frame because that memory card can only retain so much. But as of right now, we know it to be 90 days at the maximum extent.
Great.
Yeah, we're not storing it on our servers. It's through the Verizon system. Essentially, we can call and get the video and then save it to our network if there's an issue that we need to save. And if it's a accident or a crash, we have that there. So
Yes.
Commissioner Yamas?
So the memory card doesn't download automatically to Sprint servers, only what you request to be downloaded off the.
memory card it uploads to the cloud.
It does, okay.
Yes, absolutely. So when what they're saying is, if we're in a bad service spot, it's okay, it's saving to the card. And then when it gets to a good service spot, then it is able to upload to the cloud. And then anytime these gentlemen request, they can get those videos from Verizon system.
Yeah, and the physical data will be overwritten at some point actually on board, but I can't remember how many gigabytes that they have on board.
Okay. So Verizon is the one that's in charge of the cloud and the storage.
Mhm.
You call them, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we have
this-
logins.
Correct. Yeah, we have logins and you just pick the truck and the time, you kind of give a time window. and then you make the call for a video if you need a video. The rest of the data is just kind of on the server. It's easier to grab that, but getting the actual video takes a little bit of time.
Commissioner Green, did you have another question?
Yes, so from a legal standpoint, given that there's a 3-year statute of limitations on negligence actions, accidents,
Mhm.
would we be able to go back and ask Verizon or something, if they would have access to that?
I think
3
we lose it.
years,
Yeah, I think we lose it after that 90-day window. I think that data is gone.
it's gone.
And obviously, if we're involved in a crash, we're gonna download
Yeah,
that material or that video so that we have that for our own
yeah. So
sake.
for an example, when the semi tractor was involved in the crash at a roundabout, where initially, before we even got the report, we pulled the time frame. And so we actually had the video by the time we got the report, which noted us making a hazardous action, which we obviously took exception to. So then we started the process of communicating that with police department, and they were receptive. They took the video, and then things changed, and held us, we were fine at that point. But anytime we're involved in anything, the group, they usually bump myself, because thankfully we're not involved that frequent. They'll bump the 3 of us, and it's usually myself. We'll pull it, we'll put it in a file, and just have, that whatever time frame they're talking about. But Ken and Jared both can pull that as well. The shop team can pull that as well. So if for some reason some of us are indisposed doing something else, they can pull that data if need be. Yeah, so if anything's in question, we draw it. But most of the time, we're gonna know if something is of any type of liability concern, we're gonna certainly know within a few days of needing to get it. So that's how we're kind of staying ahead of that. If we see it coming, we're gonna grab the information. But yeah, I think it would be sacrificed if not.
And every time there's an incident, our staff has to fill out an incident report. The report gets generated and ultimately goes to the supervisor, to the director, and then gets forwarded on to HR. Through that process, we're pulling the video. So
Usually the foreman or even the employee will let the superintendents know. And then we usually just, the 3 of us get together, pull it real quick, see if it's anything worthwhile looking at, and then save it, not save it, and kind of move on. We've only had, probably maybe 12 opportunities to do it. Most of them have been mailboxes, thankfully, pretty simplistic things, but nonetheless, it's still good data to have.
Yeah, it has built confidence in the crews to be able to report stuff like that. In the past, I don't know if it was reported as much as it needed to, but now it's as easy as just calling your foreman, letting you know what time or what roads you're on, and we can easily just pull the video and hold it as a what if, just in case something does happen or come up. The guys are more confident. I think they've had the confidence level in ABL is built up with them, and it's not that negative experience, so they're using it as a support now.
Well, and they're having a little bit of fun with it too, and then I'll move us on, but we had one employee in to try to talk about it, well, how we're gonna be more productive. And so initially concerned like he did something wrong. We're like, no, we're coaching how to get better. But even through that conversation, he related back to an issue he had when he was doing unpaved roads and how it was icy. And he's like, car almost hit me, flew right across in front of me. I just basically got lucky. And so we pulled that. So that's like a little bit of training to have now for some of these employees in training to show. So we sent him the video later in the afternoon. He's like, I told you it was close. It's building confidence in its own way. Because everything, we make mistakes sometimes, but it's okay to have that data and just all kind of go through it together. That's part of this. That's how you learn. And most of us are visual. So these type of things are really good for visual learners to be able to see it once or twice.
Right, so once the video is downloaded, we can hold it on our servers.
absolutely.
Yeah, so we save basically just that file.
Yeah.
And then either myself or Tiffany can, if it's her training, she can create a little better video. But if it's just for us, for just coaching and figuring out what we need to do internally, we just have a raw video data player and that's it. Just has the time and kind of what was going on at the moment.
Thank you.
Yep. All righty. So thank you guys. Really what we'll kind of talk to real quick here is this actually brings Tiffany Oliphant into the conversation a little bit.
Thanks,
This is-
Jared. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
This is a little bit of kind of the post images, so things that Tiffany can use. So Tiffany, you're more than welcome to speak. This was kind of her and I's mindset from where we've worked before. And it seems to have played out pretty good for us. But Tiffany, if you'd like to make any notes, you're welcome.
Absolutely. Tiffany Oliphant, Communications Manager back here running a lot of the technical things back here. So what we do for social media and telling our story is now that you know that we have the map, we have the video options. So sometimes you'll see on social media that we'll post the map of all of our crews working, and you can see that by the green dots, that's the map of all the crews moving at the time. That is the live map at 9:15. And that's what I put in the post. You can see that. Also, we talk about where we are. Below is a look at Moon Road. I would try to give you a location so that you know what road that is. If you go down, you'll see the picture. I think Adam is working this as well. You can see what it looked like out the driver's window. I do that because now you see exactly what the driver sees out his window, out his or her window. I don't want to make this interesting. So this is what the driver sees out their window. Yes, it's a little cloudy, but sometimes your window is cloudy when you're driving out in the snow. So this is accurate view of what they're seeing, what they're dealing with, I guess the conditions of not just the road, but the conditions out my window as well. So that's why I picked this picture, because this is an accurate view for the driver to see and what they're dealing with. So when people complain about certain things, they can see the drivers have the same issue you do. Also, this is just letting you know we're out working. Also telling the story, we're out at 9:15. You see the crews working. We're letting you know where we are and what's going on and what we're dealing with. So it's about telling the story of what the Washtenaw County Road Commission, what our road crews are dealing with. And also we use it as an opportunity to tell our followers and those watching social media to move over and slow down. It is the law. You need to move over, give our crews room to work. They want to go home every night, and we want them to go home every night. So this is also opportunity to continue that messaging and continue that storytelling.
Question, if I go to this website, can I move the map?
You can, if you go on Facebook, this is the Facebook page.
Yeah.
I posted this on Facebook, Twitter, and
Right.
on Instagram. So what happens is that you can go and look. You can't go live into the map. No, you can't go into the AVL like I can. This is only for Washtenaw County, but by me giving you a screenshot of what the map looked like at 9:15, that's how you get that. So we post it on social media.
My point is, there are areas of the county that aren't displayed. So
Right.
if I'm interested in a different place than what's in the posting, can I drag and move the
No,
map?
it's
No.
just an image. It's just an
Okay.
image.
It's just right, exactly. This is just an image. This is a snapshot in time. I'm just showing you a snapshot in time of what we're doing.
Understood.
I have not posted the video yet. Again, we're still in the infancy of the program and things of that nature. That video that Adam just showed you, that's something also that I'll edit a video and put, like, these are the routes that we're using. This is what we're doing. This is how our crews were working at that particular time. So I'll do that as a snapshot, or I'll say from 4 a.m. to 12 a.m. Now you can see what we were doing at that time. Those particular trucks only can do a certain amount of trucks. So that's why that
Okay.
can do.
All right, well, thank you, Tiffany. So not to belabor the point, so we'll kind of move into the next one. I have one more slide here coming up for Tiffany Lobosal to talk about here. But some of the benefits to AVL, something as simple as this, just this screenshot is the training, the coaching side of things. As you can see, we have big dump trucks. There's 2 or 3 vehicles in this area. That's an unpaved road. Very narrow, as you can see by the wheel tracks. You see the truck is moving, the white F-150. It's moving way off the road trying to help us out. But this is good. Things like this are good in the room when we're training and talking to show them how tight it's going to be out there, and to explain that to a new employee, or use the hypotheticals. We always use the word hypothetical that, okay, what are you doing if it's snowing really hard, you can't see in this scenario? Or what are you doing if this is ice? You know, do you back down this little incline here instead? You know, it's certain things that can help the operators. And like I say, revert back to most of us in this department, we're visual learners. We need to touch it, feel it, kind of see it once or twice. This is the best way to gain that experience before you're stuck in the environment, stuck in that moment. Because guess I shouldn't use the term stuck, but you can become stuck really quickly. You know, you get into a situation, and so we like to have these opportunities where we can show somebody what they may see when they're out there prior to just showing up the first time they've ever done this. So we try to kind of walk through that. And obviously we send riders with them, and the foreman and group leaders usually ride with them, or the superintendents, myself even sometimes. We try to do our best for their training benefit, but sometimes inevitably you're thrust into a situation that you may not have been able to plan for. So any type data, pictures, videos, anything we can do has been pretty helpful. So hopefully we can keep moving that forward.
Commissioner Green.
Yes, so motors are required to remain a certain distance from our vehicles, correct?
Yeah, 200 feet as of the law this fall that was, or last fall.
Front,
that was
back, side.
behind while we're performing. Lateral offset, like side to side, they can encroach within, I believe, 20 feet or so when they're going to pass. But inevitably they have to stay on the road, so they could pass us just along the side, but they have to pass and move on. In theory, you would think logic would come in, but sometimes it doesn't. But the goal is, if they're gonna pass, most of the time our operators will either slow down a little bit to not get themselves stuck or get themselves in a situation, let the vehicle by, and then continue on. But some motorists inevitably don't take heed to some of those warnings or a new law like this and kind of force their way through. So our group is unfortunately tasked with maintaining the roads themselves, their truck, and sometimes driving for others. So it does get a little bit tedious at times. Most of the time on an unpaved road, for example, in the slide, constituents are a little bit more caring or conscious of what's going on because they're used to driving maybe in those environments. The paved roads is where you see a little bit more aggression, where our crews are trying to do what they're trying to do. But sometimes we don't quite we're not yielded to like we would, like to have at times, but unfortunately that's the nature of it, but we still try to protect ourselves the best we can. But our trucks are moving pretty slow. So inevitably, if somebody wants to pass, they can usually get by us quickly. Our goal is just for them not to impact us in any way when they're trying to pass us.
Commissioner Yamas, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think you answered it. So you never instruct the trucks to stop. They have to be constantly going.
Yeah, I mean, if there's some safety sensitive thing, they can stop it. The goal is to keep moving just simply if we're plowing. There's a lot of inertia that you try to, take advantage of. Once you're moving, stay moving. But yeah, inevitably if so like, for example, if the car further in the slide here spins, I mean, you're gonna have to essentially slow down and try to stop at some point. But the trucks, they're not magic. They don't get around as well as you would think. They're honestly not that good in snow, because they're so big and so heavy. On so many wheels, they just kind of slide all around. So we try to plan ahead when we're operating, but the goal is to try to keep moving. Hence some of the motor vehicle code that gives us some exception to that, or with our flashers and our work lights, where we can roll through stop signs and stop lights, things like that if need be. Not typically something we do in the middle of rush hour, but if we're moving a lot of snow after hours, we're usually able to roll through those things and keep moving forward.
You're allowed to put chains on the
Mhm.
tires, right?
Yep. Yeah. And we have, so every vehicle we have is equipped with some type of chain that we could equip it with chains if we need to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All righty. So finally here, one of our last slides, going to bring Tiffany Lowenthal back in. This is just a chart, as you guys have seen, for some of the material usage probably over the course of time. This is something where Tiffany really starts working some of her magic to, one, track this, but two, put the graphic together for us. But then the third, which is probably the most important, is when she decides we need to order. And she starts reaching out to the foreman and seeing between her and the superintendents when we're ready to order material. So before I kick it off to her, I do want to say, as you see, every year we always find our way back near 20,000 tons of salt used. And so whether that's luck, magic, or what, that just seems to find its way in this area. We'll see how 2025 pans out. It's certainly been interesting this year, to say the least. But Tiffany still has a lot of data from the past week or two that we can put forth here. But Tiffany, you're in. You are welcome to continue on.
Yeah, so like Adam said, the numbers kind of find their way back to our average use of around 20,000 tons. But yeah, this chart's just really nice to see where things go year to year. And we use the data that's behind this chart to kind of do different formulas and see, what we need to order for the upcoming season based on our past, 5 to 7 seasons. We do have this data all the way back to, I think it's 1992, which is the year before I was born. So that's interesting.
Oh, thanks for that.
You can leave that off the record.
So yeah, this chart is really helpful and the data that's behind it. Like I said, we use this to order our salt at the end of every season. And if you see like last year, we were getting a little bit above 20,000 going towards 30,000. And we usually, depending on what we order, have availability to order up to 30,000 tons of salt in a season. So there's no worries that if we do go more upwards toward that we're going to run out of salt. We definitely have plenty. So.
Right. Well, thank you, Tiffany. Are there any other questions for that? Okay.
Commissioner McCollum?
Yes, I just have a comment that, listening to the presentation of the great communication that you have for your winter maintenance program, and also to listen to all the different steps to operate a winter maintenance. It's not just like most of us wake up, it's snowing, what do I do? Just go out, shovel, whatever. This is really complex and takes a lot of thought and planning. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing with your winter maintenance program.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really this team, the foreman, the operators. I mean, it's all the way down through everybody, all the way to our facilities team, buildings and grounds, shop. That everybody in the whole organization kind of buys in on that. We have that responsibility and we've just continually worked to empower everyone to make their decision in the moment with what they need to do. Even we got a different piece of equipment that we put forth towards the end of the year here to purchase for the buildings and grounds crew. We wanted to have something that has a broom on it to sweep the snow off the, sidewalks and certain surfaces. So just trying to empower the group when they need something, let us know and we try to plan for it. But yeah, there's a little bit involved in it, but it's team. It's not just one or two of us. It's something we're all proud of and it's our responsibility, so we're lucky to have good budget, good support from the board level. So we keep moving forward. So we do appreciate that.
Commissioner Green?
Just a comment as well. The entire Royal Commission does a fantastic job. The operations department is to me the most visible. And when people can see the trucks on the road and what they're doing, I think that's the best possible PR that we could ever receive. And we do a fantastic job of being visible and being seen doing our work. So again, I just want to say congratulations to your staff and to Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pleased. So we appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
All set?
Okay.
Great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm just
Adam.
not to come back until next winter.
Okay, let's take a little break, folks, and come back here by 10 after. We are returning to the working session agenda. The item before us now is Washtenaw County Road Commissioner Board Member Compensation. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to say at this point?
Sure. This is, just wanted to, on the screen here is, our roads law, public highways and private roads excerpt. And really what it, points to and is highlighted is that the, County Board of Commissioners is responsible for the compensation of the road commissioners. And, I wanted to just make sure we're on the same page in that regard, that ultimately the compensation for the road commissioners, any adjustments would have to come from the Board of Commissioners. And I think in preparation for this discussion, it was the last increase was $1,000, and that was back in 2013, I believe. So Dan looked at the records. I did reach out to the county and see if there was any information in regards to that as far as justification or the resolution from the Board of Commissioners. I had left a voicemail and followed up via email. I haven't heard back yet, but certainly I'm sure Andrew from the county will get back with me. That was late last week. And I just want to provide that background. The other background, I had also reached out to County Road Association, printed out, the CRA keeps a database for compensation as it relates to commissioners and also staff. And we were able to provide you that database or report that kind of outlined what the compensation was throughout the state. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair
Okay.
Fuller.
I want to point out that this issue was brought before me earlier in the month by Commissioner McCollum. Would you like to speak to why you brought this forward?
Of course. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the road commissioners have a governed responsibility to see to it that their commissions achieve what they should and avoid unacceptable situations. This governance responsibility encompasses a wide range of activities in which members of the board of the road commission will engage. The concept of governing extends far beyond oversight of the budgeting process and setting policies. Serving as a road commissioner, we are called to be a leader, a communicator, and an advocate. We lead as a collaborative group to set the direction for our county roads. We strategically communicate with the County Board of Commissioners, township boards, county residents, neighboring communities, and legislators. We talk about our county's need for adequate funding. As a road commissioner, we hold an incredibly important leadership position regarding county-run roads and bridges. This is important for quality of life and economic prosperity. And I brought this up because we had not received or looked at a compensation increase since, I thought it was 2003.
I think I misspoke. It was 2003.
Okay, 2003, which is 21 or a little over 21 years ago. And I feel that in the importance of our commission to reflect the increase in compensation for the importance of our commission is important. And that's why I am requesting to put this on a vote at our general session to vote if other board members feel that this is something they would like to go forward with. Thank you.
Commissioners, I'd like your input. Commissioner Green?
Madam Chair, thank you so much. So I do understand the issue a bit. I think there's a distinction to be made between elected and appointed officials. And I know that we are appointed, and I know that it's been said that it's been 2003 since we had any type of increase. I'm not sure whether that's the sole criterion to go on, but I understand that's an important one, but I'm not sure that's the sole criterion. I've been looking, the database information for me is very helpful in terms of understanding what each county commissioners are being paid across the state.
Road commissioners.
Right, thank you. Road commissions, and we know that there's great variance in the work that each road commission is asked to do. There's a great deal of variance. Now for me, having attended several road commission events at the CRA being sponsored by the County Road Association, I've had some conversations with commissioners and employees of the County Road Commission for Kalamazoo County. And I asked our chair about that. And the reason I mentioned Kalamazoo County, because having spoke with some of their members, they indicate that they look to Washtenaw in terms of what we're doing because our counties are somewhat similar. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was spoken to me, that they look to what we're doing because that in their minds, we have a similar county in terms of size and roads, et cetera. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. So that being said, and also looking at as well, they are also appointed as well. I know there's a bit of a variance between what they're being paid and what we're being paid. But of course, the ultimate question has to be decided by the County Board of Commissioners, whether or not they think this is something that needs to be addressed. And I'm not sure, as I mentioned, that's simply because there has been no increase since 2003. That is a factor. For me, it is not the sole factor. That if we can discuss some other things as to why there should be an increase that we can present to the County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to hear those. But simply not having an increase since 2003, for me, is not the sole factor. There has to be some other factors that we should be considering. So I'm open to listening.
Commissioner Yamas, Commissioner Smers? Anybody?
I really haven't given it a lot of thought. to tell you the
Okay.
truth. So it's no comment at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Yamas? I think we're gonna use just this database, but I really have not. I need more time to think about it, but I think that is when I take into account the number of years that it's been, the raises that the commissioners themselves gave themselves this year, last year, and continue to give themselves, if we compare ourselves to not just other commissioners, I think what Washtenaw County commissioners are paid and our other officials, appointed and not appointed, maybe taken into account. In some of these counties, the cost of living is not what it is in Washtenaw County.
That's true.
So the cost of living in Washtenaw County is significantly more than a lot of these counties. So immediately, that's what I can think of, you know. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Commissioner Green?
Madam Chair, just to piggyback on what Commissioner Yamas has indicated, that is a consideration that I had not thought about. The cost of living in Washtenaw County is, in my mind, considerably higher than it is in many other counties, especially as it relates to housing. And as well, I know the commissioners did vote themselves an increase, I think, last year. So, I mean, these are things that are important in my mind. So that's it.
Commissioner McCollum, did you have additional comments?
Yes, I want to say, I think the major point for me is the value of what we do. And that we are voting on budgets and operations and making sure that our constituents are getting the best care in their roles as possible. I also feel like this came about for me because I am on the commissioners committee, and we talk a lot about the importance of being a commissioner. And in the commissioner handbook, it talks a lot about what our duties are and our task and how important it is what we're doing and how we're supposed to take it seriously, what we're doing, which I believe we do take it seriously. So I see a value to what we're doing. And that's where this came about, that we are making some very important decisions. Even payroll will not go not unless we vote on it. So that's where I believe that the increase in compensation should come from our value, most importantly, of what we do. And that's why I was requesting that we put this on the general session for vote. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Yamas.
So the other thing, I do know that Washtenaw County Commissioners make that decision. And in the past, how was that presented to the commissioners? That,
I don't know.
yeah,
Again, it was back in 2003. I started in 2006. Talked to Dan Ackerman, our finance director, and we didn't have any records of the why or how,
or how that came.
just that it occurred based on our payroll or our financial records.
And-
So that's why I made that request to the county
Uh-huh.
and to ask for the resolution if they had any background. So if and when they respond, which I'm sure they will, I will certainly forward that along to the board.
Thank you.
I will add my comments. I went through and identified the meetings and the number of hours devoted to them that I believe are our responsibility and obligation as road commissioners, appointees. We are not employees, should not be confused with compensation in that respect. And I don't believe a comparison between cost of living and the compensation for a road commissioner is relevant. This is not employment. It is not a salary of compensation. It is an appointment. It's a privilege and an honor to serve in this role. It's generously compensated as opposed to other appointed positions within the county. And in calculating the number of meetings in 2024 and the hours that I believe are devoted to each of those meetings, it totals about 102 hours. Recognizing that in addition to it's not exactly a stipend because it's not tied to whether you're here or not for a meeting. This compensation is received automatically every month, regardless of whether you're here or not, whether you're on time or not, whether you've done your homework or not before you get here. It clocks out people at an hourly rate of $102.94. If you extrapolate that to an FTE, a full-time employee equivalence, it's $214,115 a year. In addition to the compensation we receive currently at $10,005 annually, we are given a laptop at no cost, which if you had to go out and buy one for this work, it would be over $1,500. You receive a cell phone with unlimited use. To buy a cell phone like we have these days is around $800. We get that free as a benefit. And then a monthly plan, if you have to buy it yourself, in addition to the cost of the phone, is about $540. So when you add all of that to our compensation of $10,005, it now equals around $1,389 annually. I do not favor this increase just because there hasn't been one. One might also suggest, once I did this calculation, that our compensation should be cut by half to make it more in line with that of other appointed positions. And at that point, it would still be generous. If we were compensated at $25 a meeting, meaning those that you actually attended, 47 of those meetings is what I would project we are responsible for attending. The compensation would be less than $2,000 a year in that respect. If you add in those other benefits of a laptop, a cell phone, and an unlimited monthly plan, it comes into over $4,000 versus over $13,000 as our current compensation package. Again, if you extrapolate that, if that was a full-time equivalency employment, it would be over $217,000 a year. There is nobody in this organization that is compensated nearly at that level. I think I've made myself pretty clear. Our compensation comes out of the funds that we receive through the Michigan Transportation Fund, the MTF dollars. It is not paid by the County Board of Commissioners. One can argue whether you agree with or not the raises they gave themselves and their county administrator in the last year. I don't believe that is relevant to our roles, nor the work that we do, or the expectations placed upon us as road commissioners. This is not obviously up for a vote today. I would need to have direction from the rest of you about whether you want this to be on a future agenda for a vote by this board going on the record. And what I would envision pending guidance from the county is how one would go about approaching the County Board of Commissioners for consideration in this regard. I don't know the answer to that question. I was not here in 2003. I joined this board in 2013. I would find that information helpful, particularly the whereases that will be a part of that resolution. I do know that in the past, as a board, we attended 20 annual meetings to the townships every year. Rod attended those. Those are part of our responsibility. I won't say job because we're not employees. I want to emphasize that. Those went away in COVID. We didn't go out and do those. To this day, we do not do those. So one could argue that our responsibility as road commissioners has diminished in terms of a time commitment in that respect. Those meetings in the 20 different townships around the county from where I live, that was over an hour for me to get to some of those. The meetings typically lasted 90 minutes to 2 hours. We would need to sit through the rest of their agendas before they got to us. We don't do that anymore. Our workload in that respect has been cut significantly. So I defer to the collective decision of this board. We're not voting today. I will need direction from all of you about whether or not you want this to move forward for discussion in a regular meeting. And then to hear from the county what the procedure is for approaching the County Board of Commissioners should this group as a whole decide they want to go on the record requesting additional compensation and why. Commissioner Green.
Thank you. I'm not sure that the value of the computer and the cell phone are to be included in terms of any compensation that we receive. I can say for myself personally, my computer and cell phone have never been used for anything other than road commission activities. However, at the time that I was approached with this information from Commissioner McCullough, the one question I asked her was, what is the position of our chair? And she indicated the position that you just stated. As a member of the commission and my deference to you as chairperson, I support your position as chair. If you don't think this is something that we should go forward with, I support that totally. I defer to you in terms of your experience and your understanding of the Road Commission and the work that we do. And your opinion as to what we should be doing is very important to me and weighs heavily in anything that I would consider as a commissioner. So if this is not something that you think is appropriate at this time, I totally agree with you because of your position as chair.
Let me just clarify, when I described the hourly value of our $10,500 annual compensation, that did not include the laptop, the phone, or the
Right.
cell phone plan.
I understand.
And that was over $102, almost $103 an hour. Commissioner Yamas.
Obviously, you're very passionate about this, but along with Commissioner Green, you talk about in your argument about comparing us to employees. If we were employees, the things that are provided are required by the job. So they're not. But as you talk about, I think the hours that we put in, I've done my own calculations, and maybe it comes up to $80 an hour. It doesn't come up to that, what I feel like is an exaggerated amount of money. However, I also think that when I came on board, and that maybe that was new, and as I'm reading more things, I was told I didn't have to go to those meetings, that it was voluntary if you went to those meetings, and it was voluntary if you did anything else
Mhm.
other than,
Mhm.
right? So the Commissioner's Handbook obviously states that's something we should do, right? So if you're going to try and extrapolate a dollar amount, then maybe you add up all the hours you did. And because if we all start doing that and then do some division, that would be a fair representation. You know, I feel. So I think to make a decision right now is too soon. I need to do some more investigations and then make a decision.
Okay. Anything else? Commissioner McCollum?
Yes, I think that as a board, certainly we work as a team and we come to a consensus. But I think we should have the opportunity to come to that consensus by having a vote. And once we get the vote of the majority, whichever way it goes, I think we should go with that. But I think we should have the opportunity to vote on this decision at some point.
Further discussion? So what I'm hearing is a desire for more information and time for contemplation and evaluation, analysis of this question. So at this point in time, unless there is anything additional you want to ask to be provided, and I know our managing director is happy to approach the county for any information. One of the things I'm interested in is how many other appointed positions are compensated and at what level. It's my understanding that $25 a meeting is pretty standard. I know that's what the Parks and Recreation Commission members receive. Also, a benefit that we receive that is not calculated in our annual compensation. Any conference we attend, our registration fee is paid. If there is a requirement for overnight, our lodging is paid. And in addition, mileage is paid if we go to any meetings that aren't held in this building. So that 10,005 is really does not fully reflect the compensation for the positions that we hold and the responsibilities that we execute. And to Commissioner Yamas's report, anything outside of the board meetings, the working sessions, our chat sessions per week, and Southeast Council, I put into the hourly, the number of meetings we attend and those hours devoted to those meetings. Southeast Council meetings are optional. We are not required to go to those. I mean, it's wonderful when we do, and the representation that we offer is valuable. So I have somewhat inflated the number of meetings and the hours involved in my calculations. I would be very interested in Commissioner Yamas's analysis to see how it compares to mine and where I perhaps over or undershot what I listed for that. So if there's no further requests for information of our managing director or comments, questions, I think our business for this working session is concluded. And also, these lunches are thrown in as a benefit as well,
So if you're gonna keep talking about that,
which that what?
about our mileage is paid, those things are paid, anything that you have to do on a job, because you compared it to a job, that's what is done.
This is not employment. This is not
I
a job.
understand this is not employment. However, you compared if we were paid, you're the one who made the comparison to employment,
Mhm.
correct? So if you're gonna make the comparison to employment, doing that is not an equal representation and should not be included in your compensation. And I know that you said that it's not, you said in addition,
Right.
everything is paid, but you know, as you're making a comparison to somebody who's employed, it is a moot point. What you're saying is a moot point in my mind.
Your opinion is noted. Anything further? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. Second.
Tiffany, if you would, please.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Smurs, Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, we are adjourned until 1 o'clock, at which point we will convene our regular board meeting. See you all at 1 o'clock.